1991, Ivan Dragikovic came to Washington, D.C. in search of a visa to Canada. The provost of the National Cathedral, Sanford Garner, an Episcopalian priest who with his wife Mary had experienced great things in Medjugorje and was a believer in the apparitions, invited Ivan to speak at the National Cathedral, the favored place of ceremonies for presidents and kings. Despite a cold, fiercely windy, driving rainstorm and no publicity, the huge cathedral was filled with people of all faiths. Here are just a few scenes of that historic night.
Sanford Garner, provost of the National Cathedral, welcomed the crowd, calling their attention as to how our Mother works and how she has brought us together here. So many people from so many parishes and so many churches, all brothers and sisters in the Lord. I would say that this is at least a minor miracle, that we are all here. The congregation then began the recitation of the Rosary. Ivan led the first decade in Croatian. His interpreter, Helen Sarcevic, led the second. At approximately 5:40, Ivan rises from the front pew, walks to the center of the nave, kneels down between two large candles, and begins to pray quietly. The throng behind him falls silent. They realize the apparition is about to begin. At the moment he raises his eyes, the congregation realizes that his heavenly visitor has arrived, though perhaps none of them see anything of what he sees. They can see him move his lips. They can see him nod his head. They can see his eyes fixed on one spot. At the moment Our Lady prays with Ivan is the only time that those present for an apparition can hear Ivan's voice. And Mary is appearing in this latter part of the 20th century as the guide to the Eternal Father and to her Son, Jesus Christ. Ivan then asked his interpreter, Helen Sarcevic, to read Our Lady's November 25th, 1991 message to the world. Dear children, this time also I am inviting you to prayer. Pray that you might be able to comprehend what God desires to tell you through my presence and through the messages I am giving you. I desire to draw you ever closer to Jesus and to his wounded heart, that you might be able to comprehend the immeasurable love which gave itself for each one of you. Therefore, dear children, pray that from your heart would flow a fountain of love to every person, both to the one who hates you and the one who despises you. That way, you will be able, through Jesus' love, to overcome all the misery in this world of sorrows, which is without hope for those who do not know Jesus. I am with you, and I love you with the immeasurable love of Jesus. Thank you for all your sacrifices and prayers. Pray so that I may be able to help you still more. Your prayers are necessary to me. Thank you for having responded to my call.
I also invited, and I am repeating this invitation, to organize one huge pilgrimage for peace, a march for peace, pilgrimage to Medjugorje for 11th anniversary of Our Lady's apparitions now in
1992, Father Yozo comes to the National Press Club. 1 year later, history was made again in Washington, D.C. At the height of the terrible Balkan War, which killed some 200,000 people and made millions of refugees, Medjugorje was emptied of residents and pilgrims. Father Jozo Zavko, pastor of St. James Church when the apparitions began, came to Washington, D.C. The brown-robed friar stood at a podium in the National Press Club facing CNN cameras and skeptical journalists, yours truly included, and made this incredible declaration.
I also invited, and I am repeating this invitation, to organize one huge pilgrimage for peace, a march for peace, pilgrimage to Medjugorje for 11th anniversary of Our Lady's apparitions now in June. Let's be there on the 24th of June. On 24th of June we shall celebrate 11th anniversary. America, I am inviting you. Our Lady is inviting you and is waiting for you. Organize yourselves. And as pilgrims, as believers, as those that are carrying the only weapon of rosary in their hand, come, let us stop the war. Be that wall of fortress that will stop the war. The wall on which the wave of evil is going to be broken. The future and the hope belong to those who believe. And you, I know, believe. Come to Medjugorje. Come and stop the war.
Later, I interviewed Father Yozo, trying to point out the lunacy of his dangerous proposal. Medjugorje's residents had fled. There was no water or electricity. The church had gone underground.
Father, there are a lot of practical problems involved with Americans coming to Medjugorje. First of all, there's no water, no electricity, no power, no place for anybody to stay. The pilgrims or the villagers are gone. The church is closed. The United States government may not even allow Americans to go. If they were fired on by the Serbians, it might bring the Americans into the war. With all these problems, plus the fact they would be risking their lives, what made you think of such a, some people would say, a radical idea, and do you think it's possible?
Ta ideja je poziv i on se neće ostvariti sada, u ovom tjednu, već za 20 dana.
This idea is just a call which is not going to be accomplished until 20 days and so.
Učinit ćemo sve svojom molitvom.
We are going to do everything with our prayer,
I organiziranjem naših hodočašća
organizing our pilgrimages,
da vlada Amerike sa vladama Evrope
so that the government of the United States, together with the governments of
ne
Europe,
zaustave naše hodočašće.
may not stop our pilgrimage.
The question was, does he worry that people will be risking their
Ako
lives?
učinimo još danas ono,
If we do today
što
what
Gospod
Our Lady
traži,
wants,
da zaustavimo rat,
to stop the war,
onda nema opasnosti.
then there is no danger.
Father Yozo's confidence somehow became my own, and I decided to make this outlandish pilgrimage, joining 12 volunteer ambulance drivers from Europe delivering medicines and supplies to makeshift hospitals in Medjugorje and surrounding area. The pilgrimage began on another rainy night on the docks of Ancona, Italy, where we gathered to board a ship to Split, Croatia. From there, we were to drive into the mountains to Medjugorje. What happened on that journey, in my mind, was one of the great miracles of Medjugorje.
Italy, June 19th, 1992. 6 ambulances driven from London across Europe are attempting to board a ferry for Split, Croatia.
That was a way of keeping in touch with one another.
So we said the rosary. We say the rosary over here. And, somebody actually leads, and then each ambulance in turn actually takes it.
Ultimate destination, Bosnia-Herzegovina.
How is it, John?
I think once you put on your habit, people get moving.
Great. I knew that it would work.
Do you have any more habits we can all jump into?
Thanks be to God. I said, well, we can either do one thing, we can pray and trust in God, or just kick and scream. A little bit of work, both work, so I think we'll get on.
Great.
I think we'll get on.
12 volunteer drivers and riders include Brother John, an American Franciscan based in Bosnia-Herzegovina, and Irish Franciscan Father Raymond Driscoll, now a missionary in Zimbabwe.
Visiting my sister, and I was asked to go to a prayer meeting. And at the prayer meeting, they asked for a priest to accompany them to Medjugorje. So I was praying that another priest might turn up. But I'm a man of very weak faith.
Trouble is anticipated in Croatia and war-torn Bosnia. It is not anticipated in Italy, but that is where it begins. The ambulances must vie for space on the ferry with huge trucks already booked for passage. Brother John does the negotiating, while the ambulance drivers do the praying and the hymn singing. And Father Raymond applies the Irish jig to the tension.
We started the rosary, and we stayed over there and kept praying until every ambulance and every one of our trucks was on.
4 hours, 45 rosaries, and an uncounted number of hymns and Irish jigs later, the trucks and ambulances are all on board. It is a 10-hour sail to Croatia. We soon learn that the Jadrolanga is not the QE2. June 20th, 1992, the Jadrolanga approaches Split, Croatia. The drivers herald land as they do every new situation, with music. Most of the drivers are English or Irish. Their occupations range from sculpting to engineering. They have all volunteered their time to deliver these ambulances and supplies to war-torn villages. In the absence of John Paul II, Father Raymond adopts the papal salute to arrival in Croatia. The ambulances are greeted by Croatian Franciscan Father Svetozar Kralovic, author of several books on Medjugorje. Father Svet, as he is often called, was made a refugee when the convent where he was chaplain was bombed as he was saying Mass. He and the 84 resident nuns escaped with their lives and little else. The ambulances are reloaded with medical supplies to be taken to makeshift hospitals in besieged villages near Medjugorje. We head toward the war zones. Local people wave to us in gratitude. A brief stop in Medjugorje, where we see a cluster bomb that failed to detonate, as did many bombs which were dropped over Medjugorje. The first ambulance is dropped off in Lubutski, where a gymnasium has been turned into a makeshift hospital. All the medicines and beds in this hospital have been supplied by volunteers.
You've got to have a very good reason for coming in here.
We pass through a military checkpoint. Croatian soldiers are seen wearing rosaries around their necks. We enter Mostar. We begin toward Mostar, and here we are greeted by a Croatian anxious to share with us the little food he has. We pass once Serbian bunkers.
Got the cut burnt out cars and damage here.
We arrive in Mostar, a city that has been pounded by Serbian shelling from the surrounding hills for months. On the day we arrive, residents, believing they have been liberated by the Croatian army, walk the streets for the first time, dazed by the devastation they find. This is a Franciscan church.
This the first time you've seen it?
Say this lady came here for the first time to see this destruction. In 1943 she received the Holy Communion.
Oh.
And the whole life I spent here. And my children received the Holy Communion here. And I never seen this before. And all received the sacraments and everything. This church was built immediately after the Ottomans left the region 1877. And this was the only church in Mostar for a long time. Since then the cathedral was built And anyway, Mostar had only 2 major churches plus 6 other little mission churches in the whole region. And now Mostar is left with no churches.
Door to the bombed church, a bullet-riddled school.
At the residence.
Across the street, a rocketed apartment building.
Yeah.
Downtown, a destroyed department store.
You can see that was a fairly modern building.
Yeah.
The destruction of Mostar is estimated to equal and perhaps surpass that of the much more publicized Sarajevo. Because of the perceived danger, few journalists have journeyed to the interior of Bosnia and Herzegovina to witness the devastation visited on the residents there.
Croatian roadblock? Father Svet, what are we seeing here? What was destroyed? Is this the bridge?
I would reiterate again and again, this is just an image, a picture of the reality which is in the hearts of those who did it. The hotel of the city of Mostar, the oldest. This is here another hotel, and this is the bridge.
This right here is the oldest hotel?
Yeah, these 2 hotels. And it is interesting that evil would... So the city of Mostar has 7 bridges. And each and every one is destroyed except this old and major where people died to protect it. A hint of hell. This was one city, this was the city of peace. This was where people lived together. And it wasn't necessary to destroy bridges. And they destroyed the bridges that connected them to the rest of the world. Now they are without bridges. The world, they live over there.
The Serbs live over here.
Symbolically speaking, they decided to separate themselves from the world.
But they destroyed...
But over there and here people lived. Croatians lived and Serbians lived and Muslims lived. But mostly if the community lived to the other side.
Why did they destroy their own property?
It's the nature of evil. He destroys himself, always in the process.
If Mostar is a hint of hell,
Fired on.
Medjugorje, just 12 kilometers from Mostar, is a hint of heaven. June 21st, 1992. St. James Church has just been reopened for 2 days. It is impossible to imagine seeing this church as it was for 1 decade, filled with people. Impossible to get into the church, even if waiting 1 hour ahead of time. All of the surrounding grounds would have been filled with pilgrims. On this day, one wonders, will anyone come to this peace march on June 24th, 1992?
What motivated you to come? Weren't you afraid coming during a war?
No,
Really?
I think it was because I just felt called.
And did you think about the danger?
It was a reality, but I just felt that Mary would take care of us.
There would be a miracle.
Village teenager says she thinks this anniversary will have special
Fall
significance.
down in Medjugorje, something, a miracle that you can see. It would be a miracle on the people. Because a miracle is when everybody comes here. And then when you see all the people come with you or come from somewhere else, you feel happy. And that's a miracle. everybody will smile, I think. It will be beautiful. I think something special. That this year will be something special, really special.
Poignant sight in the village, the once white marble statue of Mary, which seems to have absorbed all the bruises that the village did not receive from the bombings.
I mean, they will travel alongside
June 24, 1992. Pilgrims assemble at the Franciscan monastery in Humac in the village of Lubutski.
I think we wait for Father
The
Leonard
march
and
to
some buses
Medjugorje is
from
10
Italy,
miles.
Germany, and some other. So they said 1 o'clock, but I don't think or 2 o'clock, 13, sure. He should be in Medjugorje.
There's quite a bit of militia around.
Yeah.
Is that there's concern of protecting the people?
Well, they are, let's say, the National Guard. They are here, and these are the people who live here who are like the police.
Yeah. Are they accompanying the march?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
No. This is where they live in that dirt mound. That's their bunker, and so this is.
So we are going with only rosaries as a weapon, as Father Yozo said.
Yes, of course.
The march will take 2.5 hours. There has been quiet concern among some guides that such a large crowd would be an ideal target for an aerial bombing by the Serbs. But pilgrims seem not to share that concern.
All from Wimbledon, huh? Yes. What made you come?
Well, the March for Peace, really.
Did you think about the danger?
We did, but we thought Our Lady would protect us.
Last October, and the first day in the church, we were told to be prepared to die, because Medjugorje had been targeted, but nothing has happened.
The last Franciscan to enter the monastery, Father Jozo Zavko, the prophetic man who called for this international peace pilgrimage. A pilgrimage to send the message, love is stronger than hate. As Father Jozo steps on the altar, he is hugged by fellow friar, doctor of psychology and author, Father Slavko Barbarek. Father Slavko is the author of the Medjugorje Manual, Prayer of the Heart. It is announced that 30 countries are assembled to participate in this march and pilgrimage to show their solidarity with the suffering of the Bosnian-Herzegovinian people. On this day, June 24th, the marching pilgrims are the only representatives of the Western world bringing concern and aid to these besieged people. Many of the pilgrims have brought an extra suitcase filled with humanitarian aid. Germany and the United States have loaded trucking lorries with clothing, food, medical supplies. Italy has been active. And at this same moment, the Red Cross and the United Nations have fled in fear of their lives. Father Jozo based his rationale for this pilgrimage on Mary's message, "Only with prayer and fasting can war be stopped." The pilgrimage was preceded with 9 days of prayer and fasting in Europe and the United States.
That we may pray together for peace in our homeland and for peace in the whole world.
The Franciscans have baked large circles of bread, and a circle is given to each representative of a region of the world, and every region of the world is represented in this march. Father Jozo blesses the pilgrims and sends them on their way. He will not march. Instead, he will sit outside St. James Church for 4 or 5 hours hearing confessions. 1,500 and 2,000 people march. They are greeted by the local residents. Some with tears in their eyes.
Croatian flag.
Yeah.
Italy, first to make it, huh? Yeah. Congratulations.
Visionary Ivanka Ivankovic waits for the marchers as they pass her home. She joins the march. Visionary Maria Pavlovic reads prayers over a loudspeaker.
You can see the big truck arriving.
The pilgrims march through the center of Medjugorje across the church piazza, flags flying. They are the liberation forces for Medjugorje. Determined to reclaim their beloved St. James Church. Father Slavko leads them in the signature Medjugorje hymn. And on this day, it has a victorious ring. Archbishop Franek stands in the back of St. James Church, seeming to marvel at the sight of so many pilgrims in wartime. Later, he celebrates the Mass and loudly declares his belief in the apparitions in Medjugorje.
(1992) June 25th, Ivanka Ivankovic, apparition. I was privileged to be standing just a few feet from Ivanka as she experienced an apparition of the Blessed Mother and gave me permission to video the experience. I sadly discovered my video camera battery was dead. "It's your story, not mine," I prayed to the Lord. Immediately, this thought ran across my mental ticker tape: put the dead battery in the camera. "But it's dead," I dared to argue with my maker. Very firmly, the command was repeated: put the dead battery in the camera. So I did. And here are a few scenes of what that dead battery was incredibly able to film.
June 25th, 1992, Feast of the Queen of Peace. The first young woman to witness the apparition of the Blessed Virgin on June 24th, 1981, Ivanka Ivankovic, is visited by the Virgin. For this apparition, which now occurs for Ivanka just once a year, Ivanka has allowed some villagers and pilgrims to be present. For witnesses, the sight is compelling. Ivanka leads the group in prayer, then unexpectedly and very suddenly she drops to her knees and, with almost a gasp, her voice disappears. Her eyes fixate on one spot. They scarcely blink. She is unaware of all the commotion surrounding her, oblivious to cameras clicking, flashbulbs lighting up her face. At various moments, her voice returns briefly. This occurs when she is praying with the Virgin for those present. The lady is very, very serious on this visit, Ivanka tells us later. She pleads with the world to root out the evil one's influence with prayer and fasting. The Virgin has said repeatedly that only with prayer and fasting can war be stopped. I came to tell the world God exists, Mary first told the visionaries. He is the fullness of life. Without him, you cannot have this fullness, and you cannot have peace.
It's important to witness to others with our life.
It is to Maria that the Virgin gives her monthly message to the world. And on this day, June 25th, 1992, she gave Maria this message. Dear children, today I am happy, despite there still being some sadness in my heart for all those who began to take this path and then abandoned it. My presence here is therefore to lead you on a new path, the path of salvation. Thus I call you day after day to conversion. But if you do not pray, you cannot say you are converting. I pray for you and intercede before God for peace. First for peace in your hearts, and then around you, so that God may be your peace.
"1993. 4 times I returned to Medjugorje during the war. Once again I was given the gift of witnessing a visionary, this time Vitska Ivankovic, experiencing an apparition. We were staying in her home as she led us on relief missions throughout the war-torn area. When the visionaries speak with the Gospa, their lips move, but their voice disappears. Vitska, the most vivacious of the visionaries, seems to hardly let the Gospa get a word in edgewise.
Kako bijaše na početku, tako je sada i pasla i vijeke vijekova. Amin. Oče naš koji jesi. Hallelujah. Pilgrims returned, and never again was Medjugorje shut down until 2020, when a bug, not bullets, once again emptied the village of pilgrims. COVID shut down most of the world. June 25th, 2021 was the 40th anniversary of Mary's apparitions. Under ordinary circumstances, a huge celebration would have taken place.
40 is one of the most important numbers in the Bible, mentioned over 100 times. But who would come in the midst of a pandemic that had killed villagers and even the apostolic visitor sent by Pope Francis? Hotel managers expected very few visitors. If any, 5,000 at the very tops, one hotel manager said. Every year since that first 1992 Peace March, it has been reenacted by pilgrims and residents. In 2021, once again, people were the miracle. Not just 5,000, some 58,000 people from all over the world risked their lives and made the long journey to celebrate with Our Lady the Gospel. See for yourself. That miracle happened again in 2021. Once again, pilgrims overcame fear to reopen Medjugorje, emptied of most visitors for a year by the COVID pandemic. Not since 1992 had Medjugorje been shut down. For 28 years, every apparition anniversary memorialized that first historic Peace March. This 29th March eerily echoed the first. Once again, pilgrims had to choose faith over fear. They endured testing, masks, sleep deprivation through 24 hours of travel to process for peace in near 90-degree heat at 6 a.m. Villagers were overwhelmed by the crowds, which were 10 times their expectations. As in previous years, the lines for confession were like nothing seen anywhere else. Medjugorje has been called the confessional capital of the world. Indeed, the lines are so long that you will frequently see people kneeling on the pavement in front of priests sitting on folding chairs outside St. James Church.
This being here in Medjugorje has been a very powerful experience for me. I've been on a bit of a life journey.
Yeah.
And not that my journey is complete by any means, but this has been a wonderful part of this journey, and it's been peaceful and relaxing and uplifting and spiritual, and I feel that it has given me the strength to go back home and continue my journey and hopefully find my destination where I am supposed to be.
Masses now have to be held not only in the church, but outdoors because the crowds are so large, as they were on the 40th anniversary of Mary's apparitions.
Oče naš koji jesi na nebesima, sveti se ime Tvoje, dođe kraljevstvo Tvoje, budi volja Tvoja kako na nebu, tako i na zemlji.
Finally, let us conclude with an interview I did with Sister Joan Noreen, whom you may have seen on her many appearances on EWTN. Sister Joan and Sister Mary Catherine acquiesced to the plea of young people they had shepherded to Medjugorje. The teenagers wanted to climb rocky Apparition Hill their final night. Earlier in the trip, Sister Joan had asked Our Lady for just a little gift for the group, and she got it. Listen to her story of that night. She speaks very softly, so listen hard.
Was it, Sister Joan, what did you see?
Well, I saw the light. Mary was defined in light, and a very, very clear outline of Mary.
Front or?
Front.
Front.
Also, as Our Lady of the Miraculous Medal, Our Lady of Grace.
Now, when you say a clear outline, you mean you could sort of see the veil and the gown?
I could see her gown and her veil, her hands. Her whole form was very clearly defined by light. And also the stars, for a long time, the stars were in the shape of a rosary, with the decades shaped like a heart. So you had the 5 decades like this, with the medal in the middle, and then the other part, and a very clear cross at the end. Sometimes...
Did Sister Catherine see this too? Did you see that?
I did not, but there was another sister with us, as well as the young people, and that other sister also saw the rosaries. Yes.
Sometimes the rosary replaced the image of Mary, this light image of Mary. And for a long time, the rosary was what was there, as though that was the message that she wanted to impart, because the presence of it was for quite a long period of time.
They were not there simultaneously then, the rosary and Mary.
Not for me, no. Then I remembered that the visionaries have told us that when they sing, Mary sings with them. So we had been standing here now for perhaps 20 minutes, rejoicing, crying, marveling. And so I reminded Sister Catherine of this, and I said, well, let's sing to Mary. So we finally remembered Marian songs. We couldn't think of them. We were so amazed. And we sang about 3 or 4. The remarkable thing about that was twofold. First, while we were singing, there was a great deal of movement from Our Lady. She moved back.
Can you show us with your hands?
She moved back and forth. She came closer and she receded, as though she were dancing, playing with us. It was just delightful. But the other thing that happened, which was very profound, was that twice during the singing, she lifted her right hand and blessed us. And I do believe, I felt very strongly that the blessing was a blessing that she was giving not only to us, but to everyone in our lay community, Our Lady's Missionaries of the Eucharist lay communities, and to everyone that we brought with us in our prayer and petition at Medjugorje. And we know from talking to young people that they can and do experience a lot of peer pressure because of Medjugorje, that they can be ridiculed because of having been there, and certainly can be ridiculed for living the messages.
Are they ridiculed if they admit they've seen some sort of vision?
Well, I would imagine they would be. I would imagine so. And I think that would explain it.
Has it been difficult for you to tell the story?
No.
And you're not concerned that whether or not people believe you?